Movie Reviews, our network, or whatever the heck we're calling ourselves now. And welcome to our full disclosure of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I am Scott, and with me when he sits down is.
It's Lou. Hey,
there he is.
how's
Okay.
it going?
He got up as soon as I hit the button. It was great.
I did. I forgot one thing like right away. And like, you're like, "Are you good to go?" I'm like, "Sure, totally."
It's okay.
And then we go live. I'm like, "Oh, there's one thing I gotta do."
It's okay. The screenwriters did the same thing for some of this stuff too, so it's fine. Okay, so let's talk Jurassic World. And of course, if we're talking about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, that means we're going to spoil the hell out of it. So if you have not seen Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, if you're one of the few who didn't go see it opening weekend, then take a break. Go check out our flashback to Jurassic Park, because if you haven't seen Jurassic Park in the past 25 years, then there's no help for you. And then once you've seen Fallen Kingdom, come back. But we are going to go ahead and spoil the hell out of this in 3, 2, 1. Pterodactyls like Las Vegas.
And the floor is lava.
Yes. And no one dies, except for the bad guys. Bad guys die, but no one else dies. Not yet. It's a trilogy. So let's go ahead and give our initial thoughts when we were going into the theater, Lou. What were you thinking before you saw Fallen Kingdom? And then we'll go back to that and see if what we thought actually happened. So, first impressions.
My first impressions walking in was I felt it was going to be an extension of the first one, in that it was going to maybe double down on the spectacle and the craziness. And I try to avoid reviews before I see a movie, so I just saw some pull quotes here and there that talked maybe about it being maybe even more of a dumb spectacle. So I went in there thinking this was going to be maybe a turn your brain off kind of watch more dinosaurs destroy more crap. So that's what I went in thinking.
Yeah. As I kind of mentioned in our flashback episode when we talked about what we were playing on Jurassic World looking like, I wasn't expecting much. Jurassic World for me was an okay movie, but it wasn't something that's a classic. I think the only classic of the franchise is obviously Park. But the one thing I did say was it looks a lot like Lost World. I mean, obviously from the trailers, they're going to go onto the mainland. We're leaving the island again. And I said this could go one of two ways. It could either be really terrible, like Lost World was, which I think I rated Lost World as the worst of the franchise. I actually think Jurassic Park 3 is better than Lost World. So I was very scared that I was going to get Lost World Part 2. But I also said this movie has the potential to be like Last Jedi for me. And I'm not going to get into the Star Wars nerd rage, but I said I liked Force Awakens, but Force Awakens was a nostalgia trip. It was, hey, you love the first three, here, let's do it again. That was exactly what Jurassic World tried to be, which I think is why Colin Trevorrow for a time was going to direct Star Wars 3 or Star Wars 9, because they saw what he did with Jurassic World. But then Last Jedi came about and completely changed everything and said, we're going to make this a different franchise now. And I was saying, if Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom can do that, like Last Jedi did, I will be very, very happy. And so that's what I was thinking going into the theater. So let's talk about our impressions after we left the theater. What'd you think of the film? And then we'll get into the nitty gritty after that.
Well, my initial thoughts were it was definitely different than what I thought it was going to be walking in. And I think what you said was kind of your thoughts before the movie reflect a little bit of my thoughts after the movie, in the fact that it did subvert my expectations based on what we saw in the first movie. And I think you're exactly right, where they clearly seem to be following the Star Wars model in terms of, let's rope you back in with the nostalgia. Let's remind you why you liked this franchise in the first place. And now let's build the story. And I thought it was an interesting inverse, because my critique of Jurassic World, of the first one, was that it was all spectacle and no plot. and that it was fun to watch while I was sitting there in the theater, but I forgot about it almost instantaneously. This one, the spectacle it's a weird to say for a movie about dinosaurs that come to life, but the spectacle takes a back seat to the plot, I feel. In the fact there's only really 2 major set pieces in the whole movie. And so they dialed down the spectacle and ramped up the plot a little bit. And so I appreciated that. And I'm sure we'll get into all the different intricacies of that.
Who would have thought that a Jurassic Park film would be turned into a haunted house movie? And the trailers, I always fear that the trailers are going to give too much away. And I think this one gives a lot away if you know what you're looking at. But if you haven't seen the film, the trailer doesn't tell you much, because I thought for the trailer they were going to be all over the place, which is what part 3 is going to be, or what part 6 is going to be. So when they were just stuck in that one set piece, the house, that was very interesting to me, because it's something that we hadn't done before with Jurassic Park, and that was make it very, very claustrophobic. In every one of the other films, we've been on the island, or we've been in San Diego for 15 minutes. And so they've had a lot of room to move around. With this one, if you can't fit into a dumbwaiter, you're screwed.
Yeah. The word I thought as I was driving away was intimate, which is such like one of the last words you would think to apply to a Jurassic Park movie, is intimate. But yeah, I agree with you, is that they spent a lot more time, we didn't watch dinosaurs running around, which for the 6th movie of this franchise, I think was a smart choice, because there's only so many different ways you can watch people run away screaming from dinosaurs.
And there's a lot of reasons why I say this, and we'll get into it. And I know I am in the minority already, because Rotten Tomatoes has it at 50% already, and Jurassic World was at 71. This is, and we'll rank the franchise here, because Lou, you didn't get to do that because you weren't on our flashbacks. But this is my second favorite Jurassic Park film now, because it does what I wanted the sequels to do from the beginning, and you've already kind of hit on it. It changed the atmosphere. It got us off the island. What I hated about Lost World was we got off the island for 15 minutes and it was a stupid Godzilla movie. We didn't get that here. But also, this is the first film since Jurassic Park that I feel doesn't use the dinosaurs as monsters. Yes, there is a monster, but it's the monster that has been created by us, and that is the Indoraptor, which I think is actually better than the Insidious or whatever Rex. I can always forget the name of that stupid thing. But aside from the Indoraptor, which was made to be a monster, every one of the dinosaurs in this film is a dinosaur you can latch onto and you care about. Even the T-Rex, again. We get moments with the T-Rex that are heartfelt, and you realize these aren't monsters. These are just animals. And in some cases, these are very intelligent animals. And I love the fact that they got back to the root of what Michael Crichton's book was about, and that was these are living creatures and they should be treated as such rather than a monster film. And every other movie, including Jurassic World, didn't understand that, but this film did. So, go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, it does, and I think it does a good job of getting you to that point, because I'll say this in the beginning of the film, and I resigned myself. I think I kind of resigned myself to one of the tenets of these movies, in that all of these movies have a common thread, and that is human beings making absolutely dumb decisions.
Basically, the screenwriters say, what is the stupidest thing somebody can do? Write it down. That's what they're going to do.
Exactly. And this movie has no short supply of people making dumb decisions. But it all kind of makes sense, because it does stem from the initial dumb decision of trying to bring back dinosaurs and not expecting them to act like dinosaurs. And so when in the beginning of the movie, there's this debate over what should happen, what should the fate of these dinosaurs be. I totally get the logic of why don't we just let them go extinct? And they do a really good job, I think, by the end of the movie of getting me to understand why they wouldn't want to do that. And I think that's what you just said is understanding that these are, animals. These are creatures that, deserve the chance to be alive. It's interesting. I didn't expect feeling to feel sympathetic by the end of the movie, and I did.
Yeah, and I try to stay away from reviews as much as possible too. But one of the reviewers I really do like on YouTube is Chris Stuckman, and he hated this movie. And so when I went into here again, I was even more worried because I usually fall in the same lines as he did, but he saw this as a monster flick, and again, I don't see that. I see this as the exact opposite of that. And I get that the Indoraptor is it's a horror film when he's running around the house, but that there's a point to it, and the idea that they hit on here with, if a creature is cloned, does it have the same rights if it was birthed by standard nature? And obviously the big twist that we're going to deal with probably in part 3 is, and it's something I'm surprised they took this long to get to, because if you can clone a dinosaur, you can clone a human.
Right.
But we have our first human clone. And so what are her rights? And she even deals with it at the very end. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about all that, but it's making more thought-provoking ideas and themes in this movie. Now, did they hit it all the way I like them to? No, they fall flat on a couple different things, but at least they're trying.
They are, and I still don't think I land on the whole, well, I think it's okay to let the dinosaurs roam free with us, because, not for nothing, they've killed how many people during their existence, and whether or not, and to me, the takeaway isn't, oh, we should have let them live because clones have the same rights as living creatures. No, we should not allow them because they're going to destroy humanity. However they got here, they're here. And so that logic and thread still, you mentioned the clone. I'm sure we'll get to it in a moment. Yeah. That's where I part company with the philosophy of the film a little bit, but I at least appreciate that it has a philosophy.
But you know what I also appreciate on that? It didn't get preachy. It gave you both sides, because when Bryce Dallas Howard's character, who I forgot her name again because her name is forgettable, Claire, is sitting there thinking, do I hit the button or do I not hit the button? And we know that Chris Pratt's character already said once that you should let them die, and now he's kind of second-guessing himself. So they're giving the audience the end there that these guys are having the same conversation in their head that you're having right now. And then they let the kid hit the button, because the kid's like, screw it. Screw your ethics. Here we go.
Yeah.
So I think they didn't pull a punch there. They allowed that little moment where the same thought that the audience is having, the characters in the film had the same concern.
I agree. Where I disagree is I think I pull a punch, and I guess since we're at this point, we'll go ahead and talk about the character of Maisie, who it turns out to be a clone. If she's not a clone, and this is the one subplot that I really didn't care much for, because it seems to me the only reason that she is a clone is so that when she hits that button, she's not just a kid making a dumb kid decision. She's a clone who sees herself in them, or sees, hey, they're clones, without still being an 8-year-old or however old girl she is, not realizing she's letting loose, she's letting loose a very dangerous element out into the world. It's still, I don't know how, I'm still thinking about whether or not I agree with that. And I guess I'll see how they combat it in the next film.
Yeah.
To see the totality of the picture.
I can fully understand where you're coming from on that. I think the reason why I allow it to be okay for me more is she is the first kid, including the Jurassic Park kids, who isn't stupid. She doesn't she doesn't make any really true mistakes.
Right.
She gets herself caught because she's a kid and she gets scared. But she never really makes a stupid mistake. And so when she gets to the point where she has to make the ultimate decision, I'm okay with her making that decision, because she's already proven to the audience that she's not like the other dumb kids. She's not like the kids from Jurassic World who really were just there to scream a lot and to run around and be the foil of the dinosaurs. That was it. You know, I think the girl from Jurassic Lost World is okay to an extent, but again, she's still more of a whiny kid for most of the film. The Macy from the beginning, she understands what's going on. She catches by accident what the plot is, and she tries to stop it. And so I'm with her throughout the movie. So when she makes that decision, it's easier for me to digest that she made that decision.
No, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, it's just a subplot that they in introducing this character felt a little forced, especially because we are introduced to James Cromwell's character, who I don't, forgive me if he was in the previous movies, but I didn't think
that was a huge ass retcon.
Right. You know, exactly. It's like all of a sudden, oh, here's this person that has this huge connection to a main character, but we've never heard this person spoken of. And the backstory of Maisie doesn't, track or resonate enough to yet. And I'm sure she's going to have a large role in the third film, since, this obviously is a planned trilogy. They've already announced the release date for 2021. So she's clearly going to have a major role in the third one. So I'm okay with it for now. I guess we'll see how they wrap it up in the third one.
And I'm not going to make the assumption that she's going to have a major role. I think she should have a major role, but this franchise has never carried a kid from one movie to the other. So that would be a first for this franchise. I think that's what they're going for, but I'm still going to be surprised because they've never done that before. And Colin Trevorrow, even though he didn't direct this film, he was involved in the script writing. I don't know how involved he was because he's second build. I wonder if he wrote the first draft and then left for Star Wars. Or if he was involved throughout the whole thing. I don't have the answer to that, but I wonder if his vision for this trilogy is carrying on, or if other folks have taken it in their own direction. I guess we'll find out here with the third one.
Maybe you know this. I don't. Was this from the beginning, before Jurassic World came out? Was this always going to be a trilogy, or was it just once the first one made $1 billion, they just decided, hey, we're going to do 2 more of these?
Well, I'm sure the $1 billion helped them fast track it, but all of them signed on for a 3-film contract.
Okay. So yeah, that would be interesting for me to know, is like, was this because that actually retroactively makes me like Jurassic World a little bit more. And because I had listened to the flashback and I knew, you had talked about how this was a trilogy. I kind of walked into the theater expecting a middle chapter movie, which, as we all know from trilogies, middle chapters heighten the story, but they don't resolve it necessarily in the most satisfying way because we've got more story to tell. And so I was kind of expecting a cliffhangery or downer of an ending, which I wonder if that's also part of the reason why this is not getting the reception that the first one got.
No, I can see that. And I very much, hey, there's Lutens. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Hi. So to finish that thought before we let Lutens jump in, way to be late, dude. It's good. Way to be late. No, to finish that thought, though, I got a very distinct, and it started for me probably in the last 30 minutes of the film. I got a very distinct Planet of the Apes feel on this, and by that I mean the new Planet of the Apes franchise. And I was like, this is Dawn, and Part 3 is going to be Planet of the Dinosaurs, and they're basically following that piece where Jurassic World was Rise, this is Dawn, and we have War coming next. And I'm okay with that because I like the Planet of the Apes films. But it's very interesting that they went that route, because I didn't get that idea coming out of Jurassic World 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was. I didn't get that thought at all, but now obviously that's exactly where they're going. So, hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Would you like to tell us your first impressions of the film, and then we were just going to dive right into what we liked about the movie?
First impressions for me, again, huge fan of the franchise. First impressions of me is that this movie felt like a horror movie. And to me, that was phenomenal, because when you're dealing with dinosaurs and, things that could potentially kill you, there is some dread and fear there, and the fact that this movie had more gore, it really made me appreciate the movie more. So yeah, that's my first impression.
This is definitely the first time we saw somebody severed arms since Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I noticed that too when rewatching Jurassic World. It was very toned down. I mean, there were deaths, and I still think the pterodactyl death of the assistant is the most it's not even just gruesome. It's the only time I ever felt that Jurassic Park franchise went into torture porn, because there was no reason to watch that girl get beat up that much.
Yeah.
She got ate. Okay, move on. But she got ripped to shreds. And we did that here in the Indoraptor cage with the hunter, but that's because I wanted to see the hunter die. So I was okay with
everybody
that.
Wanted to see him die.
Okay, so let's we've kind of done our first impressions and a little bit more. So let's talk about things we liked about the film, and then we'll talk about things we didn't like about the film. And let's go to Luton's first.
So again, what I'm saying is what I liked about the movie is the genuine feel of the film is much darker. It definitely played in like horror aspect. I really enjoyed the opening sequence. Opening sequence where you're back on the island. Basically, evil company up to no good needs to go and get Indominus Rex DNA, and the only way you're going to get that is through bones, and that's at the bottom of the lagoon where the Mosasaurus is, and just everything about that opening sequence really set the tone for the movie for me. Just that edge of your seat, weirded out, like suspense, because it just starts in the water, and even the guy's like, it's got to be dead now, right? Well, the way they introduced the Mosasaurus was pretty freaking phenomenal. Other than that, I really enjoyed just the tension of being in the house. But like I said, when we did the flashback for Jurassic Park, the number one thing I liked about this movie is the scientific philosophy. There's a huge twist in the movie. I'm not going to give it away.
Oh, we're spoiling the hell out of it. There's a clone.
Oh, yeah. There's a clone. That's right. This is full disclosure.
Yes.
So there's a clone. Lockwood, who works with Hammond, broke away from Hammond because his daughter died and he wanted to make another one, and he did. So at the end of the movie, she's the one that frees all the dinosaurs to make the United States, this Jurassic World. And so, and the reason why she did it was because she said, they're like me, they're clones. So to me, that was awesome. So just that scientific rhetoric, and at the end you have Ian Malcolm talking about how we're now involved and we live in this Jurassic world as you see the dinosaurs enjoying the open world. The Mosasaurus going after a surfer, Blue about to go disrupt suburbia, T-Rex hanging out with the Lion King, and then of course if you stayed till the credits, you've got some pterodons hanging out in Vegas. So all in all, that was some of the things that I really enjoyed.
Lou, what do you got?
Well, I thought the whole sequence on the island, once the volcano started erupting, was a lot of fun. I thought it was really well executed. I thought it was really thrilling action, and it caught me off guard because, like I said about my first impressions, I thought we were in for just another silly movie with raised stakes. So when they talk about the volcano at the beginning, I'm like, oh, well, I know what the third act set piece is going to be. The volcano is going to start to erupt and there's going to be lava and all. We're dinosaurs and lava. And that's the climactic moment. But the fact that it happens in the first half hour of the film, I was like, well, they're starting with the volcano. They're starting, Chris Pratt dodging lava and dinosaurs. Like, where do you go from here? And so to have it go from there to a much more intimate movie, it's always pleasant. I always like, even if I don't always agree with a choice in a movie, I will always take being surprised versus being able to see the beats coming. And so not only was it well executed, but that was the first clue that this movie was going to subvert my expectations of what it was going to be about. And so I appreciated that.
So and I agree with you fully on the subversion of it, and that's why I think I like this film a lot, because it definitely went against the grain of the franchise. But for me, a film is only going to be as good as the characters in the film. And one of my biggest complaints out of Jurassic World was there was absolutely no chemistry between Owen and Claire, and Bryce Dallas Howard couldn't act to save her high heels. And I'll tell you, when the film opened up with her in the elevator showing her high heels before her, I was pissed at the movie already. I was like, are you going to do this again? And now that I've watched it, I was like, the director actually knew I was going to be pissed.
Right.
And he did it for that reason.
Oh, yeah. The total troll job. And I loved that. I love that they're like, yeah, we're just here. Yeah, how do you know this is her? We're going to show her high heels first.
But I will say she got an acting coach between the films. So the interaction between Owen and Claire is much better in this movie than it was in the last. So I really did enjoy that. And the other one I really enjoyed in this was the character of Zia, Daniela Pineda. She was great in this. She was a badass. She's got the sarcastic wit, but it's not annoying sarcasm. It's just the kind of stuff that you think you would say if you had the balls to say it. Like, you go in and get the blood yourself, have fun, and knock yourself out. I think usually characters like that who are interjected in the middle of a franchise usually are one-off, and I will talk about the other one when we get to things we didn't like. But I really enjoyed her character, and I hope she comes back because she was fun. And along with that, just going down the list, James Cromwell is one of my favorite character actors of all time. He will forever be Zephyrin Cochrane to me. So,
First Contact.
Yes. So everything he's in is great, and he's able to play that role to a point where I knew throughout the movie is like, he's going to double cross everybody. He's the main guy. Yes, his Foundation guy's running the show for him, but he's really the big bad. He's going to be the asshole at the end who says, I don't care about you. I'm going to do this, this, and this. So when they killed him, spoilers again, when they killed him, I was really shocked by that, because I thought for sure that he was going to be a turncoat as well. So I like that they were able to subvert me again doing that.
Well, what's really subverted me is I actually thought James Cromwell was no longer with us.
Well, he appreciates that.
I am like, wait, James Cromwell's alive? I thought
CGI is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, holy shit. But no, and then I realized I think I was confusing him for James Remar. But anyway, yeah, no, it's always good to see him, and it's always good to see him alive. So
the other thing I definitely want to hit on, and you've already kind of talked about it, Lou and Ryan, is the director of this film did an amazing job.
Yep.
Because you're right, there, and we were talking about this before you got on, Ryan. There are two set pieces. There is the island, and there is the haunted house. And the fact that he can do both of those, one that is very open and very catastrophic with the volcano, and you can see everything, and it's all bright and colorful, and then you go to this very claustrophobic feeling house, that takes a lot for one director to do one of those well. The fact that he did both of those is really impressive.
What's great about him is the fact that his two previous movies, one was The Orphanage, which is a horror movie, and the other one was The Impossible, about the India tsunami. So, you know, he's got both genres, so he knows how to make an earthquake, and he knows how to do a volcano. So, I mean, he knew what he was doing, and I'm really glad in the direction in which he took this movie.
Yeah, I'm hoping his name's J.A. Boyana. It's whatever. It's Spanish, so I can't pronounce it. But I hope he gets some work, because unfortunately this film's getting kind of half and half. So I'm hoping people see this as it seems like the three of us are seeing it, because he seems like the kind of director who can do a blockbuster, but also make you get involved in the film, which is something that I don't think Colin Trevorrow could do. And that's why I was very glad when he got fired from Star Wars 9, because I mean, as much as I don't think Force Awakens was as good as Last Jedi, I think J.J. Abrams is a good director, and I don't think Colin Trevorrow is. So I'm very glad that they went with a new guy, and I think it paid off. Just that one scene with I'm terrible with the dinosaur name, so I'm going to call him Littlefoot, the long neck, when Littlefoot is waiting for, hoping to get on the boat, and the boat is sailing away, and you see the clouds of smoke taking him off, and just before you know he's gonna bite it, he does his little rear up as in fear and trying to yell, and it is a really heartbreaking scene. You've got Owen and Claire on the boat watching it happen. There's nothing they can do. They know every other animal on that island is dead or going to die, and they're just watching it happen. That was really, really well done.
Yeah, for sure.
It was, and you mentioned Bryce Dallas Howard. I think also some credit to Chris Pratt, who I think does a little bit more dramatic work than he maybe has really done previously, at least in his other films. Not to say that and there's this idea and this nugget that I hope they expand on in the third one, and that is everybody in this film, everybody in this universe is somehow complicit in the situation that they're all in. And him kind of realizing that, when he was training Blue, what that led to do, and this, good intentions gone awry is just the another common thread through this whole series. And so those moments, like that, where he has to watch that happen, and when he has that realization, I think was really well done.
Yeah, thought. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, have you guys talked about the villains at all? Ted Levine, who plays the hunter, that leads the main expedition force, and then, of course, his boss, Rafe Spall. Both of those guys, you wanted to see them get eaten. You wanted to see them die, and it happened. But, I mean, these guys were just villains of the villains. I mean, Ted Levine, holy crap, I love him in everything he does. Whether it's Monk or Silence of the Lambs, but just to have him as this trophy hunters where he's going and collecting teeth. I mean, you have a baby Stegosaurus strapped to a flatbed, and he's going to go and pull out his teeth and goes, "Oh, that's going to hurt you in the morning." I'm like, oh, God, this guy is just wicked, and I love it.
Now, I thought that scene was going to go even darker, because I was thinking, okay, he can't get all of them on the boat. He's running out of time, so he's just going to get the DNA and go. And I thought he was going to leave that Stegosaurus on the island. That would have been even more dark. But I'll get into the villains on the things we didn't like. Not gonna lie. But I hear you. The back to Chris Pratt for a second. When we were in the first scene, not with him building the house, but in the bar, I thought to myself, "Oh, good. He left Star-Lord at home. This is nice." Because when you first see him interact with Claire in Jurassic World, when he's at his bungalow. He's Star-Lord. That's what he is. He's playing the exact same character, and that was one of my biggest complaints about him in the last one. In this one, he doesn't do that at all. He leaves that all behind, and he does have the wit that Chris Pratt is going to bring. He's got that charisma that he has to have, but he doesn't oversell it, and I think that is on him for doing that, but also on the director for not pushing for him to oversell it, like I think Colin Trevorrow did last time.
There's a lot more range of emotion in this time too. Like when he's running, that's all CGI, but him running away from the mountain, just the look on his face, it's the oh shit moment. So yeah, he did a phenomenal job this time around.
We haven't said anything wholly inflammatory yet, so let me break this a half hour in. I think that Chris Pratt, and especially after watching this film, is this generation's Harrison Ford.
I won't go there yet, but if he plays Indiana Jones like he supposedly is going to do, I can see that.
That would be a little too on the nose, but because and what I say by that is, he has a very everyman appeal to him, much like Harrison Ford does, but you believe him as a physical presence. He handles comedy well, and he's showing the dramatic, for what this movie is. Again, this is not, this is not Schindler's List we're talking here, but he's bringing weight to his characters in a way that I think is what Harrison Ford ultimately did as he grew into his roles and became, you know, a more polished actor. And so as somebody who's going to continually show up in these franchises, I think he's showing that he's kind of building the total package in that regard. And I think as he gets older, he's going to be able to go into the more grizzled roles that Harrison Ford took on. Is, you know, now if he can reboot regarding Henry and be a lawyer who gets shot in the face, then I'm all in.
But I don't think it's inflammatory at all, because I have absolutely no problem with Chris Pratt. I think the problem with Chris Pratt has been because his first major role in a film, because before that he was in, you know, on TV, his first major role was Star-Lord, that he got typecasted by everybody saying, okay, you're the doofy funny one, so that's what you're going to do.
You're a super blockbuster guy.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did in Jurassic World. You're supposed to be stupid. Go be stupid, even though you're supposed to be this smart guy who trained raptors how not to kill people, which this film does better in those little flashbacks than Jurassic World ever did.
Yeah.
So I think he, as an actor, is getting better because he's feeling more comfortable in his shoes. And again, I think the powers that be are letting him expand more. I even saw that in Infinity War. People give him a lot of bad times about the fact that, and if you haven't seen Infinity War, you're the one person who hasn't in the world, so I'm going to spoil that too. He's the reason why Thanos wins, because he's stupid and he lets the glove not get taken off. But that's who Star-Lord is, and Chris Pratt played it well.
Right.
He is a man-child, and he made stupid mistakes. Owen Grady is not a man-child, and this is the first time we've seen him not a man-child.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you didn't like Chris Pratt because he was too Chris Pratt in the first one. I actually didn't like him in the first one because they didn't allow him to be funny enough, I thought. Because to me, I adore Parks and Rec, and I know that dude can be really funny. And yeah, right. But so to me, when I saw the first one, I was like, if you're going to hire Chris Pratt, let him be funny rather than generic handsome dude. You know, you can get a million of those guys, but you bring him in because he has such great comedic timing and sensibilities. And I thought they squandered that in the first one. Now in this one, it would have been totally inappropriate because this is a darker film. But he's up to the challenge.
But go ahead.
I was going to say, in Jurassic World, like, you know, you see Chris Pratt and you expect someone funny. But like when he's in the control room during Jurassic World and he's doing like all these different hand motions and pointing, I'm like, what are you trying to do, dude? Like I'm not believing this. So I agree with you 100%, Lou.
I think the best, not the best scenes in the film, but the best scenes for him were when Macy is watching the film of him dealing with Baby Blue. That was, I mean, he's acting against nothing there, and he did a very, very good job. And again, it gives us the backstory into all of this, not just those two characters, the raptor and him, but the whole idea, and B.D. Wong's character says it later, is if you don't give these animals a mother or somebody to latch onto, they're going to be monsters, and we're creating them that way. And they're trying not to do that for nefarious reasons. They want them to be controlled, but it goes back to that, you know, nature versus nurture argument that they're trying to make in these films, for better or worse. And this is one of those times where they hit it really, really well. Anything else you guys want to talk about you liked?
I mean, I like the bookends of Ian Malcolm. I thought that was a smart use for him. I think maybe I'm the only real true Goldblum fan on the panel after listening to your previous podcast.
He didn't Goldblum it up. I'll give him that.
He did. Well, listen, I'm never, to me, Goldbluming is not a negative verb in my house, but I thought it was a smart use of him to help bookend the film, and it actually made me hopeful that he shows up in the third one, because I mean, the dinosaurs are all across the country. He may run into them at some point.
Yeah, and as I kind of mentioned in the flashback, Jeff Goldblum isn't my cup of tea usually. And I think he was the worst thing about Thor Ragnarok for me, which I know I am in the minority on that. Mm-hmm. But I was right. And this is the one time the film proved me right in a bad way. As I said, if you just use Ian Malcolm for one scene, you're going to waste that character. And they did it for one scene. Now, of course, that scene was broken into 2 pieces, but it was the same scene. Mm-hmm. Now, as much as I'm happy they're not going the nostalgic route, I would love to see Ian Malcolm and I would love to see Sam Neill's character come back in the next one, and Laura Dern's character, because you're right. They're the experts and they should be involved in this. And I hope that if they do come back, I think Sam Neill probably needs some work right now. He hasn't done much in a while. So I hope they use them well and not just for, here, fans from 25 years ago, here's your 5 minutes of Jeff Goldblum. Have fun.
Well, if that happens, then they've gone full Star Wars, because they've essentially brought back all the stalwarts from the original franchise to help the newbies figure stuff out. But
and you saw the latest rumor / news from a couple weeks ago. Billy D. Williams is coming back for Part 9. He's the only one they haven't brought back yet.
On board. On board.
Okay, so let's get into some things that we did not like about this film. So let's go to Lou first.
Well, I mentioned earlier, I thought that the subplot of Maisie and that whole family just seems to come out of left field. And it to me, it's a lot of time to really establish, to really justify one moment, and that's the pushing of the button. So I didn't, I get where she's coming from, but I still I wasn't buying that as much. The other thing that I wish they would have done was explain a little bit more of the maturation of Claire's character, where she's a conservationist for dinosaurs. And this again maybe gets me. This is because I didn't grow up loving dinosaurs as a kid. Like, I wasn't obsessed with them like I know a lot of people are growing up. So I see them more as monsters in these movies. And her character, went through a harrowing traumatic experience, being nearly killed by these things. Her assistant was violently murdered by them. She barely escapes with her life, but within 3 years, she's like, we need to save them. I would have liked to know what caused that shift.
And that's when I joked when we started this, saying that the screenwriters kind of missed some stuff. That was the main one that I was going to hit on, was there is no development there between the films. Now, when we get into the film, I'm good with where the characters are, but there's no reason for her to be the voice of this. If you had Laura Dern come back and do that, if you had Sam Neill come back and do that, well, maybe not Sam Neill, but because he didn't really like the dinosaurs either at the end of that. But I did not appreciate that they didn't give me anything, and they could have, because there's a lot of use of media, just snippets in there in the montaging that gives you where they have been. Like they say, it's been 3 years. The government has locked this place down. No one's allowed to go there. You could have easily thrown in something saying that, she did X, Y, and Z, and that's why she's here. I mean, that would make it fine by me.
And even if it had been something where she felt guilt because she's one of the people who was exploiting the dinosaurs,
which is where they go later.
Right, it's where they go later, but it's like, I spent so many years exploiting them. Now I want to save them, or now or she's I'm not mad at them for being what they are, because I'm the one who put myself and us in that position, or something of that regard. But you don't get any of that. We're just supposed to buy that. Oh, she's on the dinosaur. She's team dinosaur now.
Yep, she's just tossed in with her high heels, and you got to take it as you will. Now, going to the Lockwoods, I will go with you halfway. I am never really a big fan of retconning, and for those who aren't comic book fans, retconning is retro continuity. It's, you say, oh, it was always like this, even though you never knew it was like that. Hammond always had a partner. We just never met him until just now. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Really? We had Hammond in 2 movies. You've referenced him in all the movies, and you never once mentioned anybody else. He was in charge of InGen. He was fired as a CEO in part 2. There was never mention of any partnership, anything at all, and you're just going to throw it into me. I did not buy that at all.
I'm going to have to agree with you guys on all this. The whole Lockwood subplot, big time issue for me, because, you know, if John Hammond and Benjamin Lockwood were such good friends and they had the same Amber Cain, you know, why did we not know about this? And my thing is if Lockwood had a painting of Hammond in his house, where was Hammond's painting of Lockwood?
Yeah, we saw Hammond's house.
Yeah, in Lost World. So to me, that was it was a stretch for me. You're just trying to bring that nostalgia factor in when you are trying to do something unique with this movie, which they started out great. There was no nostalgia up until that point when she walks in and sees Hammond's picture, and you're like, oh, now they're just trying to make ties. So to me, that was a big problem.
Well,
to me, that's just a placeholder for what I think they wish they could have done, which was actually have that character be John Hammond. If they could have gotten, you know, if Richard Attenborough was still with us and he hadn't been, I try to remember,
he passed away right before Jurassic World was released, but he was never in Jurassic World.
I mean, it's quite possible when they were planning this trilogy that they were planning on having him in that role. Yeah. And if that's the case, then I can get it. But, you know, it's a shame that they couldn't have just done that and have it been, well, I also, not only did I clone a dinosaur, I also cloned a human.
Well, and that was my other big issue with the Lockwood situation was they specifically say the reason why Hammond and Lockwood weren't together at the end is because of Lockwood's decision to clone Macy. The Hammond that we know would never have had a problem with that.
No.
That was way out of character for Hammond because, and they even quote him, they quote his Lost World quote from the end of the movie saying we need to let these guys be on their own and everything else. Hammond is a bleeding heart liberal. That's his big character piece. If you have somebody tragically died and you have a way to bring that person back, Hammond's going to be all for it.
This was my big thing about this. Was the number one thing I did not enjoy about this movie because it kept bugging me is Jurassic World is 22 years after Park. So with this movie being 3 years, that's 25 years. So this girl should be 25 years old, not 8.
Unless, and that's where I was kind of expecting to go a little darker too.
Right.
Because
did the other one die or have a deformity that they had to bring the other? Like that's the sort of thing. Like, you know, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what is going on. What there's questions that I have. You know.
Well, because remember we found out that the live-in maid who may be the mother. I don't understand that whole concept.
The nanny. She was the nanny of the other.
But she looks a lot like the mom.
They could be.
I mean, she looked like the mom in old age makeup.
Again,
even the same haircut. Explained. But when she said I raised them both, I was like, oh, so there was a second one. This is like the 3rd or 4th generation. They keep trying to do this, but they didn't hit on that.
I took that as she raised both.
Or the mother. She raised the mother.
After the film was over, I completely got that. But when I was trying to put it all together, because as soon as they started hiding the photo from me, I knew something was up. And at first I thought she was the grandchild who was cloned again.
Oh, okay.
But not the daughter, and there was never a grandchild. I didn't catch
the timing and the years. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I was just expecting her to be the daughter of Laura Dern's character.
Okay.
That's what I thought, that at some point we were going to get that little hit of nostalgia in the veins as soon as the picture gets revealed. And it's like, oh, it's that, you know.
If this was J.J. Abrams, it would be.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, see, I leaned over. I told people I was watching, like, that's a clone. Like, I knew. They didn't make it. It wasn't that big of a plot twist.
No, none of it was, except for, as I mentioned, the killing of James Cromwell. I thought he was going to be evil at the end. That's the one thing where they caught me, because I figured that was the case. The going real quick back to the last thing, or the first thing you said, Lou, and the Macy character. We've already kind of hit on this before Ryan jumped on, but I think the Macy character, whether her backstory is clear and clean or not, and I don't think it is, but she's the first child in this franchise, going all the way back to the first one, where she doesn't come off as being a stupid kid. And it's not like she's written not well. She's a kid. She runs around scared half the time, but she's not stupid. She understands, oh, I just listened in on this conversation I wasn't supposed to listen in on. I should go talk to my grandpa right now and get it fixed. And the other kids in the franchise wouldn't have done that. So I appreciate her as a character, and I'm hoping she continues on the franchise because she's the first kid I've liked. So can we talk about Franklin and how much I hate him?
Oh, what do you got against Franklin?
I liked Franklin.
Everything I have against Franklin. Okay, let's begin. You have Chris Pratt, who I don't know if he's Harrison Ford or not, but he's definitely one of the funniest actors in a blockbuster actor that we have right now. He has the ability to have that charm and that humor. I would say almost more Tom Hanks than Harrison Ford in that kind of way of acting. You do not need comedic relief when Chris Pratt is in the film. You do not need this. So Franklin being there specifically for comic relief just annoys the shit out of me. And I think he annoyed the shit out of the screenwriters because if you notice, as soon as they get on the boat, Franklin is gone. I mean, he shows up a couple times, but he is never integral to the plot again. He doesn't make any stupid jokes. He's just there because the actor was on contract and he had to be in the room. Franklin is gone once we get off the island. So he's a worthless character to me. And the little, it's like, we've got enough people in this film. We've got enough going on. I don't need to worry about a kid who's scared of flying in a plane and screams every 5 seconds. He's worthless to me. The actor was fine. I have nothing with the actor. It's just that character could have been deleted in a script rewrite and it would have changed nothing in this film. Absolutely nothing. You could just remove him and save 5 minutes of film time.
Go ahead. I was going to say, sorry, Lou. I was going to say I agree with you, but to me, it's J.A.'s way of just kind of doing that quick comedic fill. I mean, that's all I interpreted it as.
Yeah, and I agree with you that his character doesn't really help advance the story at all. His skills are never really put to use, even in like the end when he's supposed to like try to prevent the gas leak or whatever he doesn't do that. Like, I don't think he actually, you're right. I don't think he actually,
he doesn't get the door open. They have to take the hatch. He doesn't get the power going. He doesn't get the gas gun. This dude, honest to God, he doesn't do anything in the film except for annoying the shit out of me.
He's a deckhand and then he's a scientist.
No, he's not. He's a hacker. His whole job is he's in web design. That's his thing. He's like, I made a wonderful website. That's the first line he had.
Having said that, I still was entertained by him. And here's the role that he does serve in the movie, because Owen and Claire are not really that scared. They're going to go into this world. They've been in this world before. And then you have the Zia character, who shouldn't be timid because she's meant to be a badass character. So I do think you need a character on the team as the voice of the audience who's like, holy shit, we're around. There are dinosaurs around. I am like, who's should be scared of them. And so it's that voice of the audience type thing that, he's there to remind the audience that you should be scared of these things. And I will say, in the screening that I attended, which was a full house, he got the most laughs in the theater. And going back to what we said earlier, that Chris Pratt is maybe expected to be Owen's character is a little bit more serious this time around. I think they did, they felt that they needed somebody to come in to deliver that comic relief. And I'll also say, one of the tropes of this franchise that they've had up until this point has been a shrill, shrieking female character. Julianne Moore, the most egregious offender of that in Lost World.
Oh my God.
So to trade that out for a shrill, shrieking man, it's progress. It's 2018, guys.
Well, and then we got Zia, who I loved, or Zaya, or whatever her name is pronounced. Yeah. But I thank you for mentioning Julianne Moore. I didn't mention this in our flashback, and I feel I need to. Okay, one scene, she says the Tyrannosaurus Rex has one of the biggest noses in the animal kingdom. They can sniff something miles away, and we have to move. The next scene, she's got blood on her, and she's like, oh, it's from the baby T-Rex. I'm fine. You are a freaking... Oh, my God, you're stupid. I hate Lost World. Hate it.
But again, hey, like we said earlier, this is a franchise that doesn't exist unless your human characters just make the wrong decision at every single turn.
So, one other thing I want to hit on, and this is an annoyance more than a real big problem, but it's just, this is Jurassic Park. You have John Williams' score, and every film, whether I've liked it or not, has used his score briefly, at least. Even Jurassic World used his score, especially when they opened the curtains in the hotel room, which Ryan, I think you said was one of your favorite scenes. We don't get John Williams until the credits, and that annoys the hell out of me. I think the score is fine. It's kind of forgetful.
You just get the...
See, I disagree with you there, because like I said, like we said in the beginning, the first one is filling the nostalgia vibe, and the second one is trying to reestablish itself. So I think that's an intentional choice to not use the old Jurassic Park score to let you know this is the new one. This is the new story we're building.
I agree. Sure you're correct that was the choice. I just don't think it was a good choice.
Scott, you still get it. You still get it when Claire sees Hammond's portrait. You get the piano tones.
Okay.
It's very brief, but I mean it's still there.
Here's two sections I would have put it in and not be overbearing, and you wouldn't have it throughout the rest of the movie. Is when Littlefoot is dying. That would have been a perfect time to show it.
The
or play
it.
Yeah, whatever, Littlefoot. I'm going to do Land Before Time as a flashback. Don't touch it, Lou. It's mine. I don't think it's a guilty pleasure anyway.
It's too good to be a guilty pleasure.
Anything Don Bluth is too good to be a guilty pleasure.
All dogs go to heaven, mate.
Oh, dude. Oh, them's fighting words. I saw that in the theater. Words.
Yeah, there we go.
But... that scene, and then at the very end, and I know we got 2 seconds later with the credits, but when Blue's looking at the Suburbia, that would have been another perfect time just to do the chords. And I think you don't have to overplay it. You don't have to show it every 5 minutes, but you have, I think, the two best score writers of all time are John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith. You have John Williams' score, use it.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that'd be great, Scott, to have it like when Blue's running down that mountain, and just that build up.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's a nitpick more than anything else. Yeah. It's the first one in the franchise. Maybe the Hammond thing I missed, but it's the first one in the franchise where I don't remember hearing the score at all. And I think Jurassic World did it fine last time. Yeah, the only other thing I would... Oh, go ahead.
No, did we want to talk about the villains? We didn't get
a chance. I completely forgot about the villains. But the one thing I was going to say real quick before then, going back to the retconning, I am a continuity whore. I understand that most people don't care about continuity as much as I do. I run a podcast for Star Trek Discovery, and you should listen to me really get pissed off during that show sometimes. We are told flat out in Lost World that Isla Nublar was wiped out. They cost them $112 million, and they wiped everybody off the island. Now, Jurassic World basically ignored Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. I was okay with that. Okay, this is just a continuation from Jurassic Park. We're good. Fine. They specifically mentioned Isla Sorna in this movie.
Yeah, they did.
And that confuses, and also they used Hammond's quote from Lost World. They talk, the Malcolm obviously is the Malcolm from Lost World, just the way he's talking, his experiences are speaking to that. So this, I don't think it's gonna be a problem because we probably will never mention it again. But if you're trying to do the headcanon, that really throws me off, because now we know there's 2 islands. So that again, Nublar got volcanoed, fine. What the hell ever happened to Sorna? You never told me what happened to it. The last we heard about it, it was still around. So did you Is it still there? Did it get wiped out some other reason? Is that something you're going to keep in your back pocket? You should never have just mentioned Sorna. There was no reason to mention it, but they did, and now it's completely confusing the hell out of me.
Is that where the dinosaurs end up to wrap up this trilogy?
Potentially, and that'd be okay, but still, it's just it's one of those where if you're going to go into this and you're going to do a reboot, which basically this is what Jurassic World is a kind of a soft reboot, then run with the reboot. Don't try to have the fan wank, because it's just going to confuse the fans.
Right. You mentioned continuity, and one thing that really kind of bothered me is, you have these mercenaries on the island. This is before we talk about the villains, of course. You have these mercenaries on the island, and they catch all the dinosaurs, like the baryonyx that was in the tube with Claire and Franklin. And they caught the T-Rex very off screen, very quick. You don't know how it happens, but it just does. But why were they not looking for the mosasaur? Like, did they know that the mosasaur got out? Like, they don't mention that. That's a pretty big creature. And pretty.
You try to get that on the boat,
right? Like just winch that behind the boat and just drag it at that point. But anyway, all right, let's talk about the villains.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the main villain, Eli, is a little too mustache twirly for me. That was my big complaint about him. And they obviously he was going to be the bad guy. I mean, you knew that, but they hit the nail so hard on the head when he said, he hired me because I was young and idealistic. I used to be both of those. Dun, dun, dun. Like, did you really need that line? Really? Because obviously he's the evil guy. I mean, really? And I don't think he really did much throughout the film. He is the sniveling business guy, but he comes off like he's kind of a fish out of water. He doesn't know how to deal with the auctioneer, Toby.
He was way better. He
always is.
Out of the three, he was.
He's and when he gets his comeuppance in the elevator, that was real fun. And then the only complaint I have about the other guy, the hunter, was I expected more out of him, because again, I kind of mentioned this on the flashbacks again. There originally were two companies competing. There were InGen, and I think the other one was Biosyn. And the only time we ever dealt with Biosyn was in the first movie. They were the guys who were paying Nedry to get the DNA. So I'm thinking, oh, cool. He's stealing teeth without telling people. So he's working both sides. He's going to take the teeth to Biosyn, and then Lockwood's going to get the folks so he can get everyone. But it's just a trophy hunter, and I was expecting more out of him. So a nitpick more than a complaint.
Yeah, it was just so funny because I do think all three of these characters have bad guy like tattooed on their forehead the minute you see them. There is no doubt when you meet Ted Levine's character, he's going to be anything other than like a ham-fisted bad guy.
I got your back, bro. No, you don't.
No, you don't. We know this and sure enough, within 10 minutes of screen time later, he's already turned. But again, I think part of that is in service of really trying hard to get you to sympathize with the dinosaurs by making sure these characters are so over the top bad, because the really truly great villains are sympathetic ones with they're motivated by something, but they go about it in the wrong way. These characters are not that.
No.
They are very two-dimensional. They are very two-dimensional villains, because if you give them nuance, you take away sympathy for the dinosaurs, who I'm still not 100% sure deserve that much sympathy. But
to me, Eli felt very forced. I don't think the acting was very done or full circle on that. Like, he had like the yuppie part down, but just I would have wanted a little more ruthless out of him, which you got from Ted Levine, and then you got the snooty part from Toby. So I mean, I wanted a little bit more out of him.
Toby Jones was born evil. Well, I mean, that face. He's just like,
fine.
Whenever he shows up on screen, you're evil.
Rafe was my problem.
Yeah. But Rafe is my major problem too. And again, it goes back to, I thought Cromwell was going to be the big bad, because you're making this sound like Lockwood is the antichrist to Hammond, which means that everything that Hammond was, Lockwood is not. But Lockwood, and you're probably right, Lou. This is probably Richard Attenborough's role if he was around to take it. Lockwood is Hammond. It's the same character. And so
same white beard, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and so it's if you're going to play that off, you need to make the script a little cleaner, or you need to decide that you're going to go the other way, because you can't try to make it like this is not Hammond, this is supposed to be something different, when it literally is Hammond with a different actor.
Mm-hmm. You know, what's funny is you say same white beard. Well, he was also in bed like Hammond was in Lost World.
Yes. And I mean, was that the same Kane, or was that a copy? See, I see it as, because the one scene, and this is where Cromwell just is an amazing actor, when he's talking about how he wasn't with Hammond at the end because they grew apart, he looked longingly at the Kane right there. I was like, that's probably John's Kane, and he took it after he was dead.
Could be.
But which is if you're going to go down that road, then symbolically when the Kane breaks, that is truly the end of Jurassic Park, and now we are on to something new.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one last thing on the villain front, I did appreciate, not to get too political on this podcast, but I did appreciate the Ted Levine's character after an exchange with Zia, just looking in the camera and calling her a nasty woman.
Yeah.
He's trying to make Jurassic Park great again.
Yeah.
Hashtag MJPGA.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm gonna make Jurassic World. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be so plush.
There's gonna be trees.
But you know what? Since we're talking about villains, and this will be real quick because we need to wrap up, and we're over an hour already. But as much as I think all these characters were too mustache twirly for me, B.D. Wong, Dr. Wu, is still the perfect villain for these films.
And he was so subtle in this movie.
Because
subtle.
Because both of you hit on it, the fact that a really good villain is somebody that you can relate to. And he does that. I mean, he was a good guy in the first one. He was a one-off, but he was a good guy, at least we thought. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, he's like, I'm just doing what you told me to do. You told me to put more teeth in these guys. And this one, he's like trying to actually, he's still evil and stupid, but he's trying to make these dinosaurs a little less monster-like.
Empathetic.
He cries out saying they need a mother. So I'm hoping we don't see BD get out of the house. He just gets kind of knocked out and brushed aside.
No, they drag him away. But
do they drag him away?
Yeah, they drag him away.
Who's they? The
one of the guards dragged.
Okay,
him
so
out.
not the dinosaurs.
No.
So I'm hoping Dr. Wu shows up again, because he is one of my favorite characters in this entire franchise. He's I think BD Wong is a great actor, and Dr. Wu has his arc is a good arc, and I'm hoping it ends with him getting 8 at the end. But I hope the arc continues until he gets 8. So okay, let's go ahead and wrap this sucker up. I want to get your rankings, and Ryan and I already did it on the flashback. So just to remind folks on that, Ryan and I had the same ranking, I believe, right, Ryan?
Yep.
So it was from best to worst: Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3. No, yeah, you're right. Jurassic Park 3 and then Lost World is the least for us. So let's go ahead and rank these suckers, including Fallen Kingdom, knowing that we've only all seen it once, so it'll probably change down the road. But initially, Lou, where would you put Fallen Kingdom in your ranking of Jurassic Park movies?
I think at the moment, I would have to go, I'm going to have to put it number 2, actually, underneath the original. I still think the original is a standalone classic. Oh, yeah. Regardless of what you heard me say on our 90s Bracket podcast, I do think it's a wonderful film. But I think it's clearly the gold standard. But I think this one has the best plot of all of any of the sequels. And that's what draws me into a movie, and will actually maybe encourage me to see this again. Because one thing all of the Jurassic Park movies, the only one that I'd seen more than once is the first one. I saw all of these in the theater, and I've always enjoyed myself in the theater, but never had a desire to go back and see them again, except for Lost World. I didn't enjoy in the theater. So you can guess what my it's at the bottom of the list. But I think I agree with your rankings. For me, it would go Jurassic Park, Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 3, and then The Lost World.
All right. And what would you score 1 to 10? What would you give Fallen Kingdom?
At the moment, I'm pretty high on it, especially after our conversation. So I'm actually gonna give it an 8. Cool. I think it does have its flaws, and I think you do need to go into it knowing this is a middle chapter movie, and also knowing you're really only gonna get 2 big set pieces. But in terms of expanding the world and deepening the characters and the story that they're telling, I really appreciated that. So I enjoyed my time.
Cool. Ludens, first off, where does this fall into your ranking, as I already mentioned, and then give it a score?
For me, just because the fact that this movie plays a lot on the horror aspect and the gore, which is something I can always appreciate, I cannot give it a number. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it. I'm going to tie it with Jurassic World as second best.
Okay.
So it goes Jurassic Park, and then in the first spot, and then for my second spot, it's going to be Jurassic World, and then Fallen Kingdom, and then fourth spot would be Jurassic Park 3, and then Lost World as fifth spot. I'm going to have to agree with Lou on the 8. This movie was everything I was hoping for, and then some. There was a few things that I kind of scratched my head on. But this movie played a lot into what I wanted to do as a dinosaur movie, and that was to be scared. I'm not going to lie. I don't jump often at movies. I predict horror movies very well. And at the end of the movie, when Ray Spall met his demise, I thought, okay, there's the Carnotaurus. They want us to focus there. And then when he turns around, there's going to be a dinosaur. When the T-Rex got him in his mouth, I jumped. I was scared. So, I mean, to me, that was perfect. So 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I like how you have a little diamond there. You did the cop out. It was good.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna fall in line with all of you guys. I think Jurassic Park is a classic. It is one of the best films of all time, and one of the best Steven Spielberg films of all time. So I don't foresee anything ever topping that, and I don't expect anything to ever top that. So if it comes close to that, it's a win for me. And I'm gonna put this above Jurassic World as a number 2 spot. And for me, and I have this fight with Craig and Jeremy all the time when it comes to Star Wars. If you can beat my expectations, you already score some bonus points with me. And then I enjoy, even with a blockbuster, I enjoy a film that's small. One of my favorite films recently, and probably of all time, is Interstellar. It is a huge directed film, but when you come down to it, it is a pretty small film. With the characters and everything else. And I feel kind of the same with this, that it's something that allows the characters to breathe and allows them to discuss. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is the first Jurassic Park film since Jurassic Park where the dinosaurs are not monsters. And for me, and I was usually a space kid in the 80s and 90s, so I wasn't really big in the dinosaurs. I still couldn't tell you what the hell half of them are called. I know the Stegosaurus and, again, the other guy's Littlefoot. But Petrie, Spike, all of those guys. But this is the first film where the dinosaurs are animals. They're going to eat people. They're going to be vicious because they're animals and they're caged. But they're sympathetic and they're not monsters. And the only monsters in this film are the villains and the Indoraptor, which is an abomination. And it's supposed to be a monster because it is an abomination. So I give it a high 8. I'm not willing to give it a 9 yet, but it's going to be up there as a really, really good film. So I'll go with an 8 as well. Mm-hmm. Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap this sucker up?
No, I just I'm confused by. I'm looking forward now that we've talked about it. I mean, I'm looking forward to reading some of the reviews and responses because I know, as we mentioned, the response to this movie has been mixed.
Yeah,
it's got a 6 point. It's 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.7 on IMDb, which is lower than the 7 of Jurassic World. So I'm curious to know what exactly people's issues and hangups with this movie are.
And as I mentioned, the one reviewer I saw before this, and I try not to watch reviews when I'm going to do a full disclosure because I don't want to ape somebody else's ideas. But I usually fall in line with Chris Stuckman, and you should check him out on YouTube. But this time he hated this film, and I loved it, so I don't understand. Now I was looking at I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes. As you mentioned, Jurassic World is at a 50. Jurassic World was 71, Park 3 was 50, Lost World was 53, and Jurassic Park is a 92. But when you look at the audience ratings, World still is tops amongst the new ones with 78%. But Fallen Kingdom's getting a 63, which is still middling, but it's better than the critics score. So I think this is one of those films where the critics and the fans are going to get something different out of it. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But it's definitely interesting. I wonder what the reactions are going to be a few weeks down the road when everyone has seen this. Now, that being said, everyone is going to see this movie. This movie was out a couple weeks early in Europe, and that's because they didn't want to fight Incredibles 2 on its opening weekend, so they pushed it in America, but released it in Europe. Before this thing opened in America, it had already outgrossed Jurassic Park 3. And Jurassic Park 3 was a decent box office moneymaker. Mm-hmm. So it already outgrossed Jurassic Park 3. Right now, currently...
It did 58 million last night. Yeah, on Friday on Open domestically. It's already done 466 million worldwide.
Yeah,
or total worldwide of 524.
Yep.
Yeah.
So by the end of this weekend, it will surpass Lost World, and I don't think it surpasses World because World made 1.6 million. I still don't understand how that made that much money, but it's definitely going to be a moneymaker. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping the studio sees this. I hope they look at the story more than the reactions because fans piss me off sometimes. I'm a fanboy, but fans piss me off. I mean,
I agree.
Freaking Last Jedi. I go back to Star Wars. They immediately took a right turn and said, or left turn and said, we're going to get J.J. Abrams back because the fans got pissed off and freaked out. So Part 9 probably is not going to be as impressive to me because they're going to tap the brakes. I hope the studio doesn't tap the brakes here. You have decided that you are going down the Planet of the Apes vibe. You are going down to does a human race and dinosaurs survive at the same time? And let's talk about human cloning. Let's talk about nature versus nurture. Mm-hmm. Don't tap the brakes. Keep going on this. And if the fans ruin this because they're pissy because, not enough dinosaurs showed up on screen, I hate fans.
I think regardless, we're in Jurassic World now. So that's what the third movie is going to be.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or
life.
You should talk like this a little bit more.
There it is.
When you're being Ian. Okay. So you can find us at thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. You can email us at thefrontrowmoviereviews@gmail.com. If you're listening to this in the podcast version, please make sure you like and subscribe and give us a review on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, whatever you're listening to. Those reviews really help us and get us moving up the chain in the search engine so people can find us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and then hit that notify bell icon. We film this live. And we film a lot of our stuff live. So if you want to be involved in the conversation as it's happening, that's how you do it. Hit that bell notification icon and YouTube will tell you right when we go live so you can dive in too. Until next time, I am Scott, and with me has been
Lou Hare
and Ryan.
And we will see you in the front row, although we won't because the front row sucks. And I never sit in the front row. I like the back row. It's nice.
I like the middle.
Middle's okay. I love the fact that we have an IMAX now and I can pick my seat. That makes me very happy because I don't like the rabble. I like to be able to get my seat.
Okay. I want to go to bed. Let's go.
Okay. Bye-bye. Night-night.